The worst thing that can happen to a writer is not failure. It's not being shunned by publishers or literary agents. It's not failing to crack the bestsellers list. It's not having your novel sit in a corner of a dusty warehouse without a single reader giving a damn. Quitting and giving up, I would argue too, are not the worst thing that can happen to a writer. The worst thing that can happen to a writer is to find success. This might seem counterintuitive at first, but only because the issue perhaps hasn't been examined in any level of detail, which is what I hope to do today. Success can bring as much harm as failure can. Failure can also be as triumphant as success. There are more elements to the equation that you need to consider, more than just being a success or being a failure. People focus a lot on failure and success and which of the two they are headed towards. But the attitude, the mindset with which you achieve either is just as important. You can have two people going towards the same objective and even achieving the same outcomes, and one person will be completely miserable and the other person will be fulfilled, all because they approached the process with different attitudes. Let's start by defining what success means, because how you define success itself is going to affect things later on. Success can mean different things to different writers, and coming up with your own definition of success is the first important step. Working off of somebody else's definition of success, the things you feel you should be trying to achieve, is a recipe for unhappiness. What you want out of the process should be for you to decide. But that's kind of not really the topic of today's video. What probably comes to mind when you think of success as a writer are things like getting published, getting on the bestsellers list, going full time. That is what some people want, and there's nothing wrong with that. For other people, it might just be finishing a novel or writing a novel that they like. Others may get fulfillment out of building their skills. Others may just want some enjoyment out of the process. They just want writing to be kind of a fun hobby that they do when they're not doing other things. No matter how you define it, success can bring some challenges if you ever happen to achieve it. Now, certain versions of success are probably less prone to these challenges, but you're still not immune. Whenever you pursue a goal, whenever you pursue something that you feel will make you happy once you are successful at it, you open yourself up to challenges, to disappointment, to difficulties. Succeeding successfully often means you have to carefully set expectations for what will happen once you find that success. Failing to do this is often where the problems start to creep in. So what are some of the problems that can happen when a writer does obtain success? The first one is something that I like to call metric chasing. This happens anytime you have a number involved in your version of success, but it can also happen with any sort of goal that you want to achieve. If you want to sell 1,000 books this year and you feel like once you hit that target, then you'll be happy, this sort of situation can very quickly lead to metric chasing. The desire to sell 1,000 books, once it's achieved, can lead to a desire to sell 10,000 or 100,000 or 1,000,000, and on and on and on. If you keep telling yourself that once you hit the next goal, once you reach the next milestone, that then you will be happy, you're setting yourself up for disappointment. You see this with content creators, you see this with people chasing their salary increases or net worth or follower counts or whatever. When you base success around chasing an ever higher number, you will never be satisfied. It doesn't even necessarily have to be number-based. Anytime you say, once I do this, I'll be happy. Once I finish this novel, I'll be happy. Once I get through this scene, I'll be happy. Anytime you do that, you're setting yourself up for disappointment because achieving that thing may not bring you the satisfaction that you want. And if you haven't considered how you're actually going to feel when you achieve that thing, when you do achieve it, you may be disappointed. If you're miserable when going from 0 to 1,000, and you're still miserable when you're moving from 1,000 to 10,000, then you're never going to be happy. You can achieve all sorts of success, get all those numbers as high as possible, but you're still going to be miserable. Changing the mindset with which you approach this growth whatever the metric is how you get out of this trap. You have to enjoy the process and learn to celebrate your accomplishments. Going from 1,000 to 10,000 can be an amazing experience or a terrible experience, and what makes the difference is the mindset that you use to approach it. There are all kinds of very, very happy, very fulfilled people who are 100% focused on hitting the next milestone. But there are just as many people who make themselves miserable trying to reach that next milestone, thinking that once they attain this, they will be happy, and usually they aren't. Success alone is not enough to make you happy, especially if the process along the way destroys you. Another version of this is chasing past success. When someone has had a period in their life where they attain something big and that time has passed them by, but they spend a great deal of energy trying to return to that moment, you end up in a similar situation. This is maybe less common in the writing world, but a lot of musicians and actors and athletes go through this. A big role or one chart-topping hit or one visit to the Super Bowl can lead to a lifetime of trying to return to that level of success. If you have glory days that you're trying to return to, whether they're the time you got that short story published or the time you went viral or your successful sports ball career in high school, if you strive to return to those glory days, it's often a recipe for misery. Another way that success can cause problems, and probably the most dangerous sort of problems, are when success goes to your ego. This one is so familiar that it's almost like a cultural trope. We refer to this as success going to a person's head. You've changed, man. It used to be about the music and cocaine. When you achieve success, especially meteoric success, and you aren't prepared to be elevated in such a way, it can cause all sorts of problems. I think when you see people in positions of power, people who have achieved a lot of success, when you see these sorts of people misbehaving, it's either because of a deep-seated character flaw, or it's the effect of success on a person's ego. They fundamentally were not prepared for what success would do to them. Whenever you or someone else is elevated to any level, it means that an inherently flawed machine is being put in a position that it objectively may not be able to handle. You were built broken. So was everybody else. Every single human being is walking around with a brain that does not quite work right. You have access to skills and talents and abilities to do incredible things, but you do not have the wiring to deal with what those things will do to your ego. Denying those flaws in you or in other people, the people that you elevate, is a very dangerous thing to do. And there are so many examples of this that I probably don't need to give you any examples. When success makes you believe that you are superior, when it makes you ignore your own shortcomings, when it makes you think that you are in fact different than all of the other flawed people who you think are beneath you, when it makes you believe that you deserve to be placed on the pedestal that everyone is lifting you upon using their own flawed judgment, that's when the real problems start to creep in. What does that kind of thing do to a person's mind? I don't think anything good. This video started as my 5,000 subscriber channel update thank you video, and then the script morphed into what you just listened to. I've experienced a tiny, minute sliver of success with this channel, and on one level, it kind of terrifies me. I mean, look at this. Look at all of this. I get paid money to do this. Google, YouTube, a company that makes billions of dollars, someone at that company was like, yeah, we're gonna give this guy some of that money to keep making these videos. Someone thought that that was a good idea. Granted, it's not a lot of money, it's a comparatively small amount of money, but still, the fact that they're paying me to make videos instead of paying me not to make videos is a sign of a flawed system. What craziness is this? I get actual money for this. I mean, look at the books and the shelves, and I'm wearing this sweater, and there's sometimes a cat who I forgot to put in this video, I'm now just realizing. What is this? Do I really have anything important to say? Why are you all here? What are you all doing here? What is going on? I'm still confused. And by no means should you interpret this as a lack of gratitude on my part. I'm very grateful for this opportunity, for the small sliver of success that I've found here. I don't feel like I deserve it. I'm incredibly grateful for all of you coming here. But at the same time, there's also some confusion, and I don't really understand what I did to make this happen. I think ultimately there's some freedom in this, because if success can be as bad as failure because of ego, because of grasping, because of the misery that chasing success can cause us, then that probably means that failure can be as good as success too. There's an inherent contradiction in the world because so much of your success or your failure is out of your control, but your ability to interpret and build a mindset and an attitude around those events is entirely within your control. So it could be argued either way that you are both completely beholden to the external effects of the world on your success or failure, but also able to craft anything as a success or failure. I don't know where we draw the line between objective reality and subjective reality. That's a far too complex question for me to even deign to answer. Is deign the right word? Dare to answer? Anyway, I think ultimately at the end of the day, focusing on what it is you're doing, the actions you're taking, the efforts that you're putting in is what's ultimately important. Success will come, failure will come. You have to be ready for either of them, and all you really have control over are the actions that you're taking. And whether those actions lead you to success or failure is some percentage up to you, some percentage up to the wider universe, and I think you just need to accept that. And I apparently failed to write a snappy conclusion to this video, so it's just going to kind of peter out. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed this and thought there was something useful in it. I'd love to hear your thoughts, comments on this down below. Leave a comment down below is what I'm trying to say there. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.